The topics discussed during this podcast can be triggering and upsetting to some viewers, seeing as on the show we discuss a wide variety of distressing material. Each episode will vary, with the topic stated in the title. We use adult language, therefore parental guidance is advised. Although situations that are discussed can be unpleasant and frankly quite scary, we are using them to educate ourselves and others. Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a 19-year-old second-year psychology student.
Hi, I'm Patrick. I'm also 19 and I'm a second-year physics student.
Welcome to the Move to the Left podcast. Today we just wanted to introduce some of our team. We have Alexander Oliver, who is our editor, and then we have Raquel, who is our graphics designer, who designed our lovely logo.
And then there's us.
Then there's us.
We're the people on the screen. We do the talking and they do the working.
Yeah. This week we're going to be covering Yemen in hopes to bring awareness on what is going on.
So yeah, Yemen, I'm hoping that you've seen, is experience. Well, obviously I'm not hoping that you've seen in effect that I'm hoping it's happening, but I'm hoping that you're aware that right now it's the biggest humanitarian crisis going on in the world. There's 24 million people starving, half of which are children. A child dies every 10 minutes. There's conflict throughout their nation between 3 different groups, and then there's also the famine, the coronavirus pandemic. There's an epidemic. I can't remember what was the epidemic.
It was cholera.
Cholera. So they are basically just getting torn apart right now, and it's a horrible situation. The famine's been since March 2015, so that's 5 years of just starvation, essentially.
Yeah. I want to cover first what a third world country is. The term third world has been redefined to mean impoverished, but African, Asian and Latin countries weren't impoverished to begin with. They were stripped of their beauty, riches and culture when their resources were taken away through colonialism. That is a definition that I found, that is like a explanation that I found on Twitter. Obviously that person's going to be credited. And I just want to say that when we refer to third world countries along this podcast and along this episode, we do mean the poorer countries. I mean, but like it said, it's been stripped away by colonialism, and we just refer to those countries as such because it's a widely known term, and you'll know what we mean when we say it. Not that we agree with it. We wanted to also mention that the nurses who are working in hospitals aren't getting paid. They don't have the right equipment. They don't have the right protective equipment, and they're at such high risk of developing coronavirus and anything that they have, and yet
there's still not proper protection. There's still not a proper system in place.
Yeah. There's I mean, Al Qaeda has control of part of the country.
I think it's not that they're occupying it, aren't they? They're not really controlling.
But there is that genuine state.
Yeah. They have a strong laws. Impact on that area.
And then we wanted to discuss why are third world countries allowed to suffer?
Because if you look at the situation, there's a whole country, a whole population in danger, and it's not, like quite often it's one group is in danger, or there's one, say in Britain there's a problem with homelessness. In most countries there's this one issue that affects one certain group. In Yemen, the whole population is in danger.
80% are starving.
Yeah, exactly.
But the whole population is in danger.
So the whole population is in danger from the pandemic, the epidemic, the famine, and the war. And you would have thought, from what I just said, that the activists, celebrities, and people out there with lots of money would have been flocking to that like sheep, wouldn't you? Trying to support them and help them as much as they can.
Instead, they sing Imagine.
And yeah, exactly. Instead, you see a group, and as much as that's got a nice meaning, it's important that you support people through arts and emotion, because that will always have quite a strong impact. At the end of the day, the world is run by money, and Yemen just simply isn't getting the money that it needs. And it's quite evident that money exists because of Notre Dame. A building of historical significance and sort of like
people.
and like worldwide sort of acclaim, I guess. It's a well-known building, and when that burnt, it was billions, with not even within days.
It was
like
within
hours.
24 hours, yeah. That was donated to restore it.
And obviously I'm not saying that
Was
building,
bad.
that building isn't important. I'm not saying those celebrities that donated that money are bad people. But what I'm saying is that why was there such a rush of money straight into rebuilding a building when a whole country is falling apart, essentially burning down?
Yeah. If something like this was happening in the UK, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
you know,
it
couldn't because
you can't even say if, because there's no if about it. It would
precisely
never happen.
It wouldn't ever happen. And I mean, I want to touch upon the fact that of all the food ever produced in the world each year, a third of that year's
food that's
produce, I guess, is binned. It doesn't even go
if
past
you look at it from
lips.
like a business point of view.
Yeah, I mean,
all of it gets produced, 1/3 of it is lost.
And I don't get why third world countries are allowed to suffer, and people can stand idly by. And
it's like the whole us against them mentality that you see.
Yeah, it is.
It's the because personally I've never understood patriotism.
No, neither have I.
It doesn't really make sense. I've always thought countries are weird, let alone patriotism. It is a sort of strange concept when you look at it. If you take yourself out, try and take yourself out of society for a minute. If you look at our world, it's a really, really strange world that we have, where there's people in Yemen, stuff like that, who we're sat in here with a fan on, and they'd probably be mind blown by a fan.
Yeah.
Or obviously, I'm not saying it's all like this. There are going to be parts of the country that have rich people there. There's rich people everywhere.
Yeah.
That I'm not saying that this whole country... And, even some activists have pointed out that the effect of, Red Nose Day and stuff, and showing all the poorer parts of Africa actually has a detrimental effect.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that they get no tourism, and probably the biggest industry... They could have a massive tourist industry, but because of, things like Red Nose, and obviously this isn't intentional, but it's not viewed as a holiday place. And when you look at Yemen, there are beautiful places there, and it's a shame that stuff like this is just completely going to waste and just getting looked over.
It is. I mean, right now we can put up on the screen what Yemen looked like a few years ago and what Yemen looks like after the war. It's horrible that this is happening, and that the fact that no one's helping and no one knows.
Well, when you look at when there's stuff going on in Iraq and Iran or whatever, there was so many different ones that we witnessed growing up. Obviously, I don't know much about it because I was a child while it was all going on. But why is it that America and England were so quick to jump on those ones, but all of a sudden this one's getting overlooked?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they should join the fighting and join the war, because that's the worst possible thing they can do, because as history has shown us, America and England makes every fucking thing they do worse.
Yeah.
So that isn't what I want. I don't want them to go join the war, but they should be providing they should be, Britain is in a point where they could pay to house quite a lot of those people, and I'm not saying that they should be entitled to, but they should be helping out countries in these positions, even if it isn't Yemen, even if it's another country.
Yeah.
But they should be pushing, even though Brexit has happened, they can still push the EU to support them. They can still push the United Nations. America and England, out of any two countries, are listened to the most when it comes to international relations. All it takes is Boris Johnson to say, what the fuck is going on over there? And people will listen. Exactly.
Considering there's this whole mentality with him, people idolise him. Those who voted for him, they do want they'll like sheep. I was actually wondering if Trump, went, don't be racist.
Yeah.
Would they all stop being racist? Do you know what I mean? It's this sheep mentality.
It's very relevant in left wing politics as well. So it's not just them. I think that's important to say.
Of course, no.
You will see quite a lot of left wing sheep. But yeah, it's because people...
We form parasocial relationships with these people.
And quite a lot of the stuff to do with this, where, going back to racism, when it comes to racism, someone like me who's a white person who's learning about the experiences and learning about how to battle it from people of colour, from people who've experienced it, it's far too easy to just assume everything that is being said is true.
Exactly.
And that, you will see some people who, obviously you should, we're all about listening to people and their experiences, but you need to at least think about it for a second. Just think, does that make sense? Yeah, I do physics. If we're doing a calculation, say it's Bob hit a tennis ball, it had this acceleration, how fast did it go?
Yeah.
If you get an answer and it says it was moving 200,000 miles per hour, you go, well, that's fucking wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's not right. That's impossible. So even when it comes to political things, you need to do sanity checks. That's what and you need to think for a sec, because I think there's a lot of stuff that, again, this is more prevalent in the right-wing politics and the left-wing politics. There's a lot of things that if you just stop for a second and you go, is that actually logical? It's just not. And like the situation that is going on with Yemen, it's just completely illogical, because you look at the world and the position that we're in right now, and that we're sat here with, you know, loads of computers here, a bed, chairs, water, hand sanitizer, a PlayStation, speakers, electricity that we can turn on at the wall.
2 monitors over there, you know, like...
How is there that drastic difference? And then people are saying that we need to protect our own, we need to protect Britain.
No, we need to
build the rest of the world. Imagine if imagine if Yemen and every single other country had the health system, had the education. Obviously, our systems are quite flawed, but in comparison, they are godly.
Yeah.
And if all these other countries were, if we supported them and got them to a position that we were in, humans, because when you're talking about protecting our own, you're talking about British people. So that means that you understand the idea of supporting the masses and supporting the people, because you're trying to do it in quite a twisted way, but that is what you're trying to do. So you understand it. You understand that we need to get the sort of rest of the human race to our position, because you see homeless people in Britain and you say he shouldn't, you know, that homeless man, that homeless woman shouldn't be in that situation.
I mean, you say that, but does anyone actually do anything with it? That's a whole nother topic.
Because obviously everyone knows that, and the fact that you know that, then that means you understand that Yemen should be in our position. You know, all the African colonies that are put at risk and are not, I don't know, I'm trying to think, not controlled, but that are sort of suppressed by the worldwide economy and the worldwide society. Those people should be on our level. And if they were, can you think about from my point of view as a physicist, the scientific breakthroughs would make, the medical breakthroughs, the technological breakthroughs, if everybody was, you know, if the whole world was in the same position.
Yeah, if everyone was given the same opportunities. I mean, Malala, she everyone should know her story, you know. Don't really need to go into that one, but obviously she wanted for girls to be able to go to schools and stuff. Her actually being moved here gave her the opportunity, and she finished Oxford the other day, you know. She graduated, and that can show you, obviously, we underestimate our privilege. Okay, we spoke about in previous episodes about white privilege. We underestimate our privilege as a privileged country.
There's more of because when talking about white privilege, that's obviously specific to the black issues. But there's a whole, I think, that people don't talk about. There's a whole Western privilege that we have.
Oh, of course.
When you look at the way that the Western world runs the world, essentially, what America says goes.
Exactly, yeah.
That's how it is.
And I mean, we underestimate, like you said, I mean, we're sat here surrounded by technology. You know, we have a roof over our heads, we have running water, and other countries just don't have it. And it's, no one cares, you know? Wow, there's Red Nose Day, there's sports relief every year. Like, how much of that really goes to those countries?
But the fact it's just a fucking day as well.
Well,
usually it's like a week,
or like a week, you know?
But there should be more consistent things go. You know, like what Tesco's does with the little donation boxes?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing, that consistent support and that consistent just care that is there all the time.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, I've never looked into Tesco's as a business. They could be horrible, but at least they're doing that one thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we're not saying that they're an amazing non-profit organisation or anything, but it's something, you know, and it's... I know that we live, like we said in a previous episode, we live in an age where we can educate ourselves very easily, and we can find these places, but it's about telling everyone else.
And it's easier not to.
Exactly.
My life would be so much easier if I didn't think about half the things I thought
And
about.
and that's what we
And that's
mentioned
why
as well.
so many people do it.
Exactly. And like in previous episodes, we're going to have all the petitions we can to sign to help Yemen. And also I wanted to mention the Free Rice app. It is a completely free app on any app store that you have, and you just answer really mind-numbing questions and then you basically fill up a bowl, and every right question gives 10 grains of rice basically to a hungry child, and the more questions you answer, the more grains of rice, and then at the end of like some questions you get like a full bowl of rice and some vegetables, and that's a full meal. And then it starts again, and you can keep answering these questions, and it's completely free. You're not giving any of your own money, because especially with coronavirus,
it's funded by ads and stuff.
Yeah, especially with coronavirus, people don't have money. I mean, the other day I was going to the shops, and a man asked me for my change because he didn't have enough for rent and bills and stuff, and it broke my heart, because it's happening here, and we're not helping either. But free rice on the App Store. That will help.
When you look at that as well, that says so much about the position that we're in, the privilege, the idea of a whole Western privilege, because we can play a game that feeds people. Like, that's
precisely.
I find that quite scary to even
It
say
is.
that you can open up your phone and you can play a game.
I know,
And you know what is it like? You can learn French or something. Can't
Yeah,
it, as
you
well?
can learn languages.
So like, you can sit there and just play this little game and learn French, and that's the difference between this child's meal tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That is scary to say, because that could be me or you. In a different world, that could be me or you.
Yeah, definitely.
In that position, if we were born there.
Yeah.
And that's the only difference.
Yeah, the only difference between us and them is that we were just born more privileged, and I don't get why people can't put themselves in their shoes at all, and don't want to help. You know. Right.
I do think part of it is that, like, me talking, it's scary to think about.
It is, but the thing is, you can talk. I'm not saying you twisted that in any way, but I'm just saying you can think of things like that.
Yeah.
Both ways, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Anything can be.
Because there is a nice side of it, that there's a child getting food.
Yeah.
But then.
Then when you actually think about it, you're playing a game.
You're playing a game
to feed them.
Yeah.
You know, and what if you don't today?
Yeah.
What if you don't?
So if tomorrow you decide I'm not going to play the game, then you're deciding someone's not.
Are you deciding, or can you rely on the thousands of others to? What if no one plays it for a day?
Yeah.
You know, what if someone spends a whole day feeding 10 children and then the next day they just can't be bothered? You know, obviously everything can be.
Well, like, that app isn't sustainable, is it? That's not going to last long term. That's
exactly, and people are going to get bored of it. You know, I wanted to move on to refugees, and there's this big thing, obviously, about refugees ever since the beginning of time. And I wanted to touch upon, obviously, Syrian refugees and everything happening with it. Do you have anything?
I'm just going to get this. You carry on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get this up.
So, obviously, there's the Syrian war and everything, and people are coming over. And I don't get why countries just aren't taking them. And they're a lot of pretexts. I know I'm from Poland, like we previously established. I'm from Poland, and I know that Polish people refuse to take in refugees. And I forgot his name, but one of the Polish MPs has been very racist and very outspoken on the fact that they won't take Muslim people into Poland because they'll perform terrorist attacks.
Well, it's kind of worrying when you see the way that UKIP talks about Polish people like that, and then there's a Polish MP talking about.
Yeah, and he's going, how many terrorist attacks have we had? 0. What about Germany letting all these people in? What about the UK? No. Just shut up, honestly.
Well, it's because Poland isn't a target, is it?
Exactly.
As much as, obviously, if you do a terrorist attack anywhere, there's going to be an impact. But where's going to have the most impact? And that's going to be England, America, France, Germany.
Westernised countries.
They're probably the 4 biggest nations in history.
At the time of the Paris attacks, I think it was 2015, of the concert, there was like in Lebanon, there was a terrorist attack in a third world country.
I do remember. Yeah.
And
the difference.
And it wasn't reported at all.
Yeah.
You know, it was like thousands of people died in that terrorist attack, and I'm not saying this is good either, but about 50 died in this westernised first world country. And, you know, that was all we heard. I mean, One Love Manchester was created because of that terrorist attack in which 22 people died, but at the same time there was a terrorist attack somewhere else that also took many, many lives. And it's just, we report, especially the media, we report on things that matter to us and things that directly affect us.
Well, when you look at the just completely different news that's reported on, if you compared my Instagram feed or your Facebook feed to the news, there's like two different planets.
Yeah. And that's not to say that social media doesn't make things up.
Obviously.
I mean, I read with that attack of the horse, of someone spooking the horse, and obviously the woman falling off, breaking her shoulder blades and her hips and knees and stuff. I read that woman, that man apparently, it turned out to be a woman, that man rode into the crowd in like charged into the crowd, hitting people with their baton. No, that's how social media shaped up to be. And then when it was actually recorded, you saw different angles. You saw every video showed her falling off. But then when you saw 5 seconds before, you could see someone spooking the horse and her hitting the traffic light and falling off. The horse was spooked. And I had a huge debate with my boyfriend about this. We got into a bit of a fight because I believed the social media side. But just like the media twistings, social media can twist things as well. So I like I said earlier, there's two sides to everything.
Yeah.
Do you want to mention this?
Okay, so this, I've not actually looked into it as much as I wanted to, but it's a charity called Solidarity. Hopefully there'll be something about it on the screen right now. But they're a student-run charity who donates sort of as much of the money they can from the T-shirts they sell to legal aid for refugees. And as far as I'm aware, the art on the T-shirts is done by the refugees artists as well. That I might be wrong there, but I think that's true. I'm just checking now, and I don't have it on me. Obviously, I'm not wearing it, but I do have one of these. They're really nice T-shirts, and it's all student ran. So here it is. So £10 shirt. More than £7.50 goes directly towards funding and providing legal aid and other vital services for refugees. It's done as cheaply as possible, but as what's the word? As not humane. What is it that Primark used to be really bad at? What's the word?
Sweatshops.
No, but there's that word for it that they're
inhumane.
Oh, I don't know, but ethically, that's it.
Ethics.
They do it all as ethically well as they can, and it's
sorry about that.
It's brain stopped, but it's a really nice charity. They do, again, good T-shirts, so you'll get a nice T-shirt out of it. And it's only £10. And it says on the website where all your money's going, what you're doing. So it's generally just really good.
Yeah. Right, talking about refugees and people coming into different countries. I don't get why refugees are seen as something as a debate, and that's what
why is there a taboo around it?
Why is it a debate? Why are human rights a debate? That's what I will never understand with politics and everything. And why are human lives a debate?
Well, it's like with the refugee thing. Of course some people are going to come in and be violent and do something wrong, but if you took a group of anyone from anywhere, there's going to be some that are violent. Why
are we judging someone for moving to have a better life, to get away from bad situations, to give their children I mean, my family moved to the UK to get a better life, to earn more money, to give us a better life. And I mean, I'm so privileged right now. I'm studying psychology, in a university, and I'm the first person of my family to go to university.
Well, and you're in a situation where you can sit and talk to a microphone with your opinions and share that with the world.
Precisely, and I'm an immigrant. I'm not a refugee. I'm never going to know what pain they go through. But why is it okay that I moved here and I'm not judging that? Is it because I'm white?
You still experience shit.
Oh, of course.
Yours was all legal, so imagine what it's like.
Yeah. I mean, it got to a point where I know in 2016 we were still in school. There was that whole me and all the other immigrant kids would joke that we're getting deported,
Yeah,
because that's the consensus we were getting from everyone.
But that's genuinely, you would I don't know, I can't speak for you, but I imagine you were genuinely quite concerned at one point, being a kid, witnessing
Of course. I mean, I was 16.
I would have been scared if I was a kid from a different country witnessing Brexit.
Yeah.
Because it did open up quite scary politics
Yeah.
at some points.
Yeah.
And you saw discussions that most people wouldn't have been comfortable having on the
Yeah.
streets.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw this, going back to whole immigration, why is it okay for white people to do it? I saw this thing where a woman's husband had moved from Australia to America. Obviously, this is America again.
Mm-hmm.
And they were at a Christmas party or something for their company, which they both work together. And this woman was sat next to her husband, and this other woman from their company was saying, "Oh, I hate refugees, I hate immigrants, this and that, they're coming to take our jobs," you know, just being really racist, and towards immigrants and refugees. And obviously there's the whole pressing thing with the Mexican people coming over to USA and ICE and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We're covering that as well. But then he goes, "Well, I'm an immigrant."
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "Oh, I don't mean you." And he goes, "Is it because I'm white? Is it because I'm from Australia, like from a first world country?" And she actually said yes.
Mm.
So I don't care about you. You're white.
Mm.
And it's horrible.
That plays back to what I mentioned before about the way that humans, if they're familiar with something, they feel more comfortable with it. And obviously in that situation, it's not that they're unfamiliar with the person being foreign. They're just unfamiliar with their skin.
Yeah.
They just don't look like... Because
Yeah, they don't look like them.
when you look at you know, the entertainment industry, that's controlled by Hollywood, that's controlled by America. Your average Hollywood star is white. So everybody who takes in media, who takes in entertainment, is generally getting white faces. So the more you watch TV,
Yeah.
the more used to white people you get. And then not only does that make you more comfortable with white people, it makes you more uncomfortable with anyone who doesn't look like that.
Exactly, and that's with you know, that's with people of colour growing up with constant white faces. Like Barbies are white, TV characters are white, and if they do get one black character, one person of colour, they're the sidekick.
Or it's a stereotype. It's being
Or
used
it's
for
a
the
stereotype. Yeah. So that needs to be changed.
I know, like things like "Come Fly With Me." The whole point of them is that they're aware of what they're doing. So they're aware of the stereotype. But I think that demonstrates it quite well, because there will be the people who watch it and they'll be like, "Oh, I understand that they're taking the idea of a stereotype and saying, look how stupid this is. Look how stupid a fucking stereotype is."
No.
But then there's the people who will look at that and go, "Ha ha ha, clever,
Funny."
Do you know what I mean? And I think that implies sort of what a big part of the issue is.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, there's cars going on. Yeah, so obviously stereotyping is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And then the fact that people are just unfamiliar with other faces, essentially.
Right. I think that's all I wanted to say.
There's something else I wanted to mention. So obviously, when you look at the opposing arguments for, arguments, when you see people going, "No, let's not help other people," that's essentially what people saying no to refugees is they point out that there are some violent people among them, and that means that they shouldn't be allowed in.
Yeah.
And if we follow those exact rules for everything, there would never be a football game ever again in my life. You would never watch football once, because in every single group of football fans there is a small minority of violent people. And if you're saying, "No, I'm not letting refugees in because of the violence that could potentially happen if a handful of them are bad," then there will never be a football game, there will never be a political rally, there will never be a protest again.
People accept people if they give them something. So like footballers give them joy, so they'll accept them.
But what I'm saying is that if you're worried about the violence from a particular group, you know, a particular handful of refugees out of the large population, if you're worried about a small amount that will cause violence, you should be worried about football fans. Because do you remember when we lost the World Cup and it was like, I think I was on holiday in Portugal or something, and there was just British men running around at their tops or throwing beers around.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, did you see people comparing like protests and riots and stuff and looting? And it's like, what happens when like English, like just football fans win? What happens when they lose?
Yeah, and that's not even about the anti-fascist protests.
No, no.
That's about genuine just celebrations.
Yeah, it's a celebration to wreck things,
And
then,
they just
and
go
then
around
those
wrecking
people
things.
say, "Oh, you can't protest human rights."
Yeah, it's there's a lot of, but obviously as well, I'm sure we're going to be quite hypocritical at times. And just feel free to point it out if we say something.
Oh, of course,
just
please.
say it, because I'd rather acknowledge that and
change my views.
Obviously,
Yeah.
this is unrelated. Again, I'm sidetracking, but
That is going to happen a lot.
that happens a lot. But yeah, obviously, I've gone and said that these people have been a bit stupid and sort of went back on what they said and been hypocritical. But yeah, obviously, if we do that, please do just point it out.
Next week, we're covering women. From their sexualization in the media to girls' periods and girls' periods in first world countries and third world countries, you know, how doctors don't believe women, which...
The lack of knowledge that men have, and I'll literally just straight up and say I know fuck all.
Yeah.
And I was definitely...
Education, yeah.
I've definitely been part of this problem because obviously women are very widely sexualized.
Megan Fox, I mean, you know what happened with her? She became a sex symbol after she spoke that Michael Bay, I think his name was, sexualised her at the age of 15, you know? And she was just made out to be a slut.
Yeah, you know a lot more
yeah.
about me than this.
And I'm actually going to say a story that recently happened to me about how a doctor just wouldn't believe me and wouldn't want to help me.
Well,
and a male doctor.
And obviously, so I mentioned before, there's a period of my childhood where there wasn't a man around. And I thought that made me a lot more sort of well-minded and open-minded with the women's issues. But really, it took me a while to notice that I was actually just as much of a dick as the people I complain about. And there is a big... Definitely in the way that white people and people of different cultures need to change their mindsets when it comes to racism and stuff. I definitely think there needs to be a big discussion about men and the way that men act, because it is very caveman-like at times.
Yeah. Yeah, and just the lack of education in every country.
I would keep talking, but obviously that's next time, so I don't want to...
So yeah, please read the articles and petitions that we've linked on our Instagram page to that link with this episode. Please educate yourselves more. The information that we got was from the UNICEF website and
just
videos
YouTube.
and just YouTube videos. I mean, it's so easy. It's all at the tip of our fingertips.
Yeah.
You know, please write in with your stories to our Instagram page, our email, which is all on the screen right now. We can get you to call in, or we can read it out for you.
Yeah, that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. See you next week.